Welcome to episode 1 of modules 3 and 4, Biological Diversity and Ecosystem Dynamics. This is part 1, Ecosystems, and part 2 will be on evolution. Our syllabus reference for this episode, we will look at abiotic and biotic factors and their impact on ecosystems, as well as adaptations of organisms. Our learning intentions for today's video, we will distinguish between abiotic and biotic factors, outline the impact abiotic factors have on different ecosystems, discuss the impact of biotic factors such as predator-prey, ecological niches, food-web relationships and symbiotic relationships on populations in ecosystems, and finally identify some adaptations of living things to factors in their environment. Let's first look at abiotic and biotic factors. Abiotic factors refer to the non-living components of an ecosystem that significantly influence the living organisms and their interactions with that environment. These factors play a crucial role in shaping the structure and functioning of ecosystems. They include the availability of sunlight, pH, temperature, wind speed, humidity, and for aquatic ecosystems, dissolved oxygen and turbidity. Some examples of instruments used to measure abiotic factors include thermometers, pH probes, light meter, Secchi discs, also known as turbidity tubes, digital probes, data loggers, compass, and an anemometer. The effects of abiotic factors are interconnected and often have cascading impacts on the biotic components of ecosystems. Changes in abiotic conditions can influence the distribution of species, their abundance, and the overall ecological dynamics of an area. Biotic factors encompass all the living organisms within an ecosystem, including plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms. These factors interact with each other and with abiotic components to shape the structure and function of ecosystems. Other examples of biotic factors include availability of food, competition for resources, predation, and disease. Biotic factors contribute to the overall biodiversity, energy flow, and nutrient cycling within ecosystems. The interactions between different species and their adaptations to environmental conditions are crucial for ecosystem stability and resilience. Human activities can also have profound effects on biotic factors, impacting ecosystems and biodiversity. Understanding these factors is essential for conservation, management, and sustainable use of ecosystems. Let's look at the impact of abiotic factors in more detail. Earth is home to a diverse array of ecosystems, each characterized by specific environmental conditions and the organisms that inhabit them. These ecosystems can be broadly characterized into terrestrial, land-based, and aquatic, water-based ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems include rainforests that have high temperatures and abundance of rainfall in tropical regions, tundras, which are ecosystems with permanently frozen soil, often in high altitudes, the desert, which often has arid conditions and low precipitation, and grasslands that vary from tropical savannas to Arctic grasslands. Examples of aquatic ecosystems include freshwater, such as rivers, lakes, ponds, and wetlands, marine, which include oceans and coastal reefs, and estuarine, where fresh and salt water meet. As mentioned, abiotic factors are the non-living components of an ecosystem. Changes to abiotic factors outside the ecosystem's norm can have negative consequences. Let's take a look at some of the normal ranges for aquatic and terrestrial environments. Temperatures in terrestrial environments fluctuate quite often. At the Earth's surface, the temperature in the troposphere, which is the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere, varies widely depending on factors such as location, time of day, and season. On a global scale, the average surface temperature is around 15 degrees Celsius. Different aquatic ecosystems will experience different temperature ranges depending on factors such as location, depth, and the type of body of water. In the open ocean, for example, sea surface temperatures can exceed 30 degrees Celsius, close to the equator. In general, however, the deeper you travel into a body of water, the cooler it becomes. The availability of gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide play an important role in living things being able to respire and/or photosynthesize. The availability of oxygen decreases as you travel deeper into water. This is often why you tend to find more living species, such as aquatic plants, closer to the surface so they can readily access oxygen to photosynthesize. In terrestrial environments, oxygen and carbon dioxide are both readily available due to the composition of our atmosphere. The availability of light can have an impact on the abundance and distribution of species in aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Just like with the availability of oxygen, the availability of light decreases with depth. The availability of light in terrestrial ecosystems can play a significant role in influencing the types of plants that grow in a particular area. Near the equator, sunlight is more direct, leading to high intensity and longer duration throughout the day. This is why tropical ecosystems near the equator are abundantly diverse in animals and plants. At higher altitudes, especially close to the north or south poles, sunlight is not as intense and there can be significant seasonal variations in day length. Now let's look at some examples of biotic factors that can have an impact on ecosystems. A predator-prey relationship is a fundamental ecological interaction where one species, the predator, consumes members of another species, the prey. This relationship has a significant impact on the population and behaviours of both the predator and prey species, shaping the dynamics of an ecosystem. A predator-prey relationship is often depicted graphically. The x-axis represents time, indicating the progression of the interaction between predator and prey populations. The y-axis represents population sizes, which with separate lines or curves for the predator and prey populations. Initially, the prey population is high when predator numbers are low. However, when prey populations increase, predator populations may also increase due to the availability of more food. As predator populations rise, they exert pressure on prey, causing a subsequent decline in the prey population. A decrease in prey availability can lead to a decline in predator populations. This model simplifies real-world predator-prey interactions. Additionally, factors such as environment, habitat, and the presence of other species can influence the dynamics of predator-prey relationships. An ecological niche refers to the role and position that a species occupies within its ecosystem, encompassing how it obtains and utilises resources, interacts with other species, and responds to environmental conditions. Sometimes, if two species occupy the same niche, they partition their resources. This means division of limited resources to reduce competition and therefore coexist. Resource partitioning can include spatial partitioning, where different species of birds or primates may occupy different levels of the canopy, thereby reducing direct competition for space and resources. The competition exclusion principle, proposed by Gauss in 1934, suggests that two species occupying the same niche cannot coexist in the long term as they come into competition of resources. One species is likely to outcompete and exclude the other over time. Recall from junior science that a food web is a graphical representation of the complex feeding relationships within an ecosystem, illustrating the transfer of energy and nutrients among different organisms. Unlike a simple food chain, which depicts a linear sequence of who eats whom, a food web is more realistic and captures the intricate network of interactions in an ecosystem. At the bottom of the food web are producers. They are capable of photosynthesizing or chemosynthesizing and include plants, algae, and certain bacteria. Next are the primary consumers. They depend on the producer for energy and include herbivores such as insects and herbivorous mammals. Secondary consumers are predators that consume the herbivores, such as carnivorous insects, mammals, and birds. And lastly, the tertiary consumers, who are the top predators or the apex. They can include sharks, lions, orcas, and tigers. And lastly, the decomposers that are responsible for breaking down dead organisms into organic matter. They can include fungi and bacteria. The arrows in a food web represent the flow of energy and nutrients from one organism to another. Only about 10% of the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next. The rest is lost as heat. Next up, symbiotic relationships. These are the interactions between two different species that live closely together, often with long-term associations. These relationships can be beneficial, harmful, or neutral for the involved organisms. There are three types of symbiotic relationships. Mutualism. This is when both species benefit or have a mutual relationship. A prime example is a sea anemone and a clownfish. The sea anemone provides the clownfish with shelter to protect them from predators. Think Finding Nemo. And the clownfish will bring food to the sea anemone for themselves, but provide leftovers from their meal. The clownfish also helps keep the sea anemones clean by removing debris and parasites from their tentacles. Commensalism is when one species benefits and the other species is neither harmed or benefits. An example is a whale and a barnacle. Barnacles attach themselves to the skin of whales, obtaining access to nutrient-rich water. The whales are not significantly affected by the presence of barnacles. Another type of symbiotic relationship is parasitism, and as the name suggests, is often the relationship between a species and a parasite. The parasite will benefit from the relationship, but the other species will not, and is often harmed. An example is the relationship between a dog and a tick. The dog provides a suitable environment with nutrients for the tick to feed off, but often ticks, if not caught quickly, can cause paralysis in dogs and even death. And in our last section for today, we will look at adaptations. Adaptations are characteristics or traits that help organisms survive and reproduce in their environments. There are three main types of adaptations: structural, behavioural, and physiological. A structural adaptation refers to the physical or anatomical features of an organism. An example is the long neck of a giraffe. This adaptation allows the giraffe to reach high branches for food in its natural habitat. A behavioural adaptation refers to the pattern of behaviour that will enhance an organism's survival or reproduction. A snake, for example, will move into sunlight to bask. By basking in the sun, it increases the snake's internal body temperature and increases metabolic processes. And lastly, physiological, not to be confused with psychological, adaptations refer to the internal metabolic processes and function within an organism. Camels, for example, are adapted to the hot desert environment because they have developed mechanisms to conserve water and withstand high temperatures. Evolutionary processes, such as natural selection, drive the development of adaptations over time. We will look more at that in part 2 of this video series. And that is the end of episode 1. Thank you for watching.